Supersize is the company which sells bikes for overweight people. Currently, this company sales are rising, and but the cost of manufacturers of bikes in USA has become more expensive. And John Dennison, CEO of the company, is facing a dilemma. She's doubting whether she needs to outsource the bike or Taiwan or continue to produce bikes in the USA. For this purpose, research was made, and using secondary data of academic literature, research shows that there are several factors which might negatively affect the company if they decide to outsource, and therefore I would suggest to keep the production of the bikes in the USA. The first promised is that cost might be higher than expected. The cost reduction is one of the major drivers of decision regarding outsourcing. About one half of the outsourcing arrangements entered into end up being terminated for a variety of reasons. Some new overseas vendors encounter financial difficulties or are acquired by other firms with different procedures and priorities. Accordingly to Meyer and Solomon, in situation involving specific assets, opportunism on the part of a supplier may arise. The insurance to avoid ex post hold-up probably will increase contracting cost. This causes that when assets are specific to transactions, firms tend to prefer internal forms of governance. Furthermore, the outsourcing of an activity related to organization core competence and to high level of asset specificity can undermine organizational efficiency, among other factors, because in this case it is more difficult to find suppliers to perform the activities. The complexity of some contracts may lead to significant growth in the cost of their management and their core activities. Moreover, some American companies are paying much more in real estate fees for their offshoring activities than they would pay in the United States. This negative differentiation occurs because of the cost of upgrading poor infrastructure overseas, and furthermore, more frequently encounter corrupt officials in the public sector. And according to Wendell, a major risk of doing business in China or Asia in general is the threat of significant cost increases in the short run. For instance, the Chinese government adopted stricter environmental and labor controls, increased land and commodity prices, and slashed to the export tax rebuilds before the Olympics 2008. These sweeping changes combined with a failing dollar and the rising yuan increased the cost of doing business in China by middle 2008. All these unexpected cost factors might cause a lot of problems to a supersized company. The second promise is that USA and Asia business practice are different. McGregory makes a conventional argument that business practices in China are likely accepted business practices in Western countries. He admitted there are significant difference in Chinese business ethic and accepted behavior. For example, the typical Chinese executive or politician is adept to avoiding responsibility for bad decision, conflict of interest, or some governmental officials is considered a competitive advantage, not a constraint. And some government officials use their power and influence for personal gain. Two other differences in Chinese business practice are the importance of the relationship and the relative unimportance of a written contract. A contract in China may not guarantee anything, while the relationship is considered the foundation for everything. It can be explained by the mention of Hofstede. Cultural factors are often cited as major barriers to successful outsourcing in China or any other offshore destination. Third promise, it's poor management and knowledge of English. Asia has a shortage of effective managers, and most of them unable to speak clear English. Most Chinese managers do not have much experience. Moreover, the workers do not understand business terminology and concepts. Chinese outsourcing companies also have limited experience with American and Europe clients. This fact might have negative effect on communication between office in USA and bike manufacturer in Taiwan. Premise 4 is trust issues. Businesses that arbitrarily set a fixed percentage of work to be outsourced will likely regret it. Newcomers to overseas contracting might find themselves dealing with unreliable suppliers who put their work aside when they gain a more important client, or their overseas vendor may suffer rapid turnover of skilled employees who find job with more desirable firms. 5 is USA has a higher productivity. Mr. Weiderman found in his study that USA workers more productive than Asia colleagues. Therefore, I would consider all these factors. I would advise to keep the production of bikes in the USA.